Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating journey. We're going to explore those hidden spaces where relationships either break down into these really painful power struggles or they blossom into profound emotional connection. Whether you feel like you and your partner are miles apart right now, or maybe you just want to deepen the bond you already share, we're going to look at both the hard neuroscience and the symbolic wisdom of astrology to understand exactly what it takes to build a relationship that truly thrives.
Okay, let's dive into this. A lot of us hold on to this romantic illusion that emotional intimacy is just a feeling, right? We kind of think of it as a noun, something you either have or something you've tragically lost along the way. But honestly, that mindset is exactly what keeps couples stuck. When we just assume intimacy is this spontaneous spark, we feel totally helpless when that spark eventually fades. But, as we'll see today, intimacy is not a passive state at all. It's something much, much more dynamic, and understanding that is really your first step to reclaiming it.
Let's look at what we call the one cup of coffee problem. Imagine this scene for a second. A husband walks into the kitchen, makes just one cup of coffee for himself, sits down and starts scrolling on his phone. Now, in just 60 seconds, his wife's brain interprets this not as a simple oversight, but as a massive, profound rejection. Her thought process just cascades, right? He didn't think about me. He doesn't even notice me. I am entirely alone in this marriage. It's heavy, but it shows how intimacy isn't built or destroyed in these grand sweeping gestures like big vacations or anniversary dinners. It is actually built or destroyed in hundreds of tiny micromoments every single day.
Section 1. The Psychological Basement. And this brilliantly illustrates why a single cup of coffee can trigger such a massive emotional reaction. To understand it, we need to undergo a bit of a descent. We're going to explore what astrologer Hiroki Nisato calls the 8th house. So imagine your psyche is a vast mansion. The 5th house is the realm of play, surface-level romance, and physical gratification. It's fun, sure, but it's pretty emotionally detached. But the 8th house? That's the locked dungeon in the psychological basement. It demands absolute psychological nakedness. It's all about deep emotional entanglement and transformation, and it's where we stash our deepest repressed emotions, past wounds, and our fear of abandonment. A lot of people struggle in relationships simply because they desperately want the depth of the 8th house, but they only have the courage to play up in the 5th house.
When we do finally cross over into the 8th house, particularly through deep physical and emotional intimacy, our psychological defenses are completely stripped away. This is exactly why, in a committed long-term relationship, you might suddenly find yourself feeling unexpectedly possessive, deeply fearful, or just irrationally reactive. The thing is, it's not necessarily about what your partner just did. It's actually that the sheer safety of your bond has allowed your buried childhood wounds to finally resurface. Essentially, your deepest shadow material is being activated.
Depending on your specific astrological placements, this shadow material is going to show up a bit differently for everyone. Like, if your sun is in the 8th house, your core identity heals through confronting past hurts in relationships. A moon placement? That points to early childhood emotional wounds, often involving really intense environments, bubbling back to the surface. Mercury indicates this deep, aching need to communicate about taboo or vulnerable subjects, rather than just intellectualizing everything. And Mars? Well, that triggers some intensely primal emotions. The real battle there is about confronting your own fear of powerlessness and loss, rather than actually fighting your partner. It's really just a powerful mirror for self-reflection.
Section 2. The brain in conflict.
Let's move to and see how this builds. We've looked at the symbolic language of astrology, but what is physically happening in your body when that shadow material gets triggered? Let's bridge this into the hard neuroscience of relationship conflict. When those deep 8th house wounds are poked, your brain experiences what's known as an amygdala hijack. The amygdala is your brain's oldest survival center. It's literally designed to detect mortal threats. When it fires off, it completely cuts off the rational, logical part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. And here is the kicker. Your logical brain is about 6 seconds behind your survival brain. So in the heat of a triggered moment, you have absolutely zero access to empathy or logic. You're just in pure biological panic, reacting impulsively to survive.
See, your brain is essentially a 24/7 threat detection machine, constantly scanning your partner and asking 2 basic underlying questions. Are you there for me? And am I enough for you? If your partner scrolls their phone while you're talking or, say, makes just one cup of coffee, your brain might register a big flashing no to those questions. Instantly, the amygdala fires, the hijack happens, and suddenly you're fighting to the death about loading the dishwasher when underneath it all you're actually terrified of being abandoned.
Section 3. Strategies for reconnection.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this? It is time for our ascent out of the psychological basement. We know what causes the neurological panic and those awful power struggles. Now let's shift our focus to the concrete strategies we can use to cure this panic and start rebuilding genuine connection. The absolute best antidote to the amygdala hijacked is something called resonance. Because we as humans are hardwired for connection, our brains literally need another brain to socially and emotionally regulate. When your partner truly attunes to your emotional state, when they hear you and reflect your feelings back without getting instantly defensive, it actually quiets your amygdala. Resonance dissolves power struggles because it sends a direct signal to your survival brain saying, "Hey, it's okay, you are safe."
Therapist Moshe Rotzen outlines several really effective high-conflict strategies to help achieve this resonance. The core themes here are taking radical responsibility and actively choosing empathy. You have to create safety and vulnerability, which basically means you stop trying to win the argument and you start trying to understand. You've got to own your role in the conflict too. Ask yourself what unmet childhood needs you might be bringing to the table. And above all, you have to actively de-escalate to diffuse tension. Why? Because if even just one person shifts their behavior, the entire dynamic of the relationship completely changes.
So the crucial point is this: we need to completely reframe how we view arguments. Conflict is absolutely not a sign that your relationship is doomed. In reality, it's a doorway to much deeper intimacy. It's an open invitation to heal those old wounds we talked about earlier. When you can embrace conflict as a tool for growth, the space between you and your partner transforms from this exhausting battlefield into a genuine sanctuary.
Section 4. The Daily Practice.
We are now at the practical climax of our explainer. Understanding the astrology and the neuroscience is amazing, but true emotional intimacy requires deliberate, physical action on your part. Remember that question we asked at the very beginning of the explainer? Well, this is the answer. Intimacy is a verb. You don't just magically find intimacy, and you don't permanently lose it either. You have to actively construct it brick by brick every single day. If you don't put in the hard work to break out of those toxic communication loops, the distance between you will inevitably grow. But if you practice the right verbs, connection is basically inevitable.
And one of the absolute best tools to help you practice intimacy as a verb is the RAVE method. This is a 90-second tool designed to completely short-circuit defensiveness. Here's how it works. When your partner's upset, first reflect. Mirror their emotions back to them so they know they're actually being heard. Second, accept. Allow their reality to exist without jumping in to correct their facts. Third, validate. Show some genuine empathy for their emotional experience. And fourth, explore. Ask gentle, curious questions to understand their feelings even deeper. Running through these steps provides that exact brain-to-brain resonance we were just talking about.
To really cement this into your daily life, our sources recommend this specific nightly 3-step practice. First, take just 2 minutes to ground. Put down the phones, take a deep breath, and just be fully present with each other. Second, take 3 minutes each to share vulnerably about your internal world, and do this without the other person interrupting or trying to fix it. Finally, take 2 minutes to check the chair. Imagine there's a third chair in the room that represents your relationship, the us. Ask yourselves, what does the us need right now to feel protected and nurtured? This whole nightly routine acts as a much-needed emergency brake to stop the tape of daily disconnection.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to reflect on one final thought. True intimacy requires the courage to venture down into your psychological basement, to understand your brain's fear responses, and to commit to the daily verbs of connection. So what unresolved shadow material are you ready to face tonight? Take that brave first step, put these tools into practice, and just watch how it completely transforms your connection. Thanks for joining me on this journey today, and keep learning.